Good morning, everybody. You're very welcome to Disruption, Guaranteed Irish Technology Forum, our second one. Last year we did a full tech month in the month of April, and this year, unfortunately, we were disrupted with COVID and the global pandemic. So we've pushed the forum out until just now, and you're very welcome to join us. Guaranteed Irish, of course, as you know, in its repositioning, has really focused on the tech sector, and we're delighted to have Damien McCann, Director of Sales and Marketing with Viatel, join us on the board of Guaranteed Irish, and he's really driving the engagement and involvement of Guaranteed Irish in the tech sector. We see it as a new growth area, and it's an area that we want to really position and shine a light on for Ireland, because there's so much tech and good tech businesses coming out of Ireland, and we want to put a profile on that. A few housekeeping rules just in relation to questions and answers. Really looking forward to getting them from you. Please put them on the question and answer section on the Zoom, and we'll get to them at the end of the session, and we'll really debate those. We'd like to do that, and we look forward to loads of engagement. So I'm going to hand you over to Damien. Damien.
Thanks, Brid, and good morning, everyone. So as Brid said, my name is Damien McCann. I'm the Director of Sales and Marketing with Viatel. We're an Irish tech company where we specialize in telecoms and cloud services with offices in County Louth, in Blanchardstown, and recently we acquired or completed the acquisition of a company called Ripplecom, which opens up offices and presence in Limerick City. So we have a full national presence. We provide employment across the island and service customers, B2B customers, in pretty much all industries. So delighted to be involved with Guaranteed Irish. It's a real badge of honor for us as a business, and for me personally to be on the board. Really spinning and pivoting a focus onto the tech sector, which is something that is a growing space. It's a new space for Guaranteed Irish. So there's no doubt we can achieve much, much more under that banner over the months and years ahead. So I won't hold back in terms of the introductions to our panel here today. So we have a fantastic panel that represents the tech sector across Ireland. So the first person I'll introduce will be Mr. Bill Liao. So Bill is the general partner of SOSV. Bill, over to yourself, and if you could give us a quick introduction to who you are and what you do.
So I'm probably known for two things actually here in Ireland. One is the co-founder of Coder Dojo, which is still endeavoring to get all Irish kids to learn to code for free. And the other is the general partner for Europe for SOSV. SOSV is a global venture capital firm, and our actual global back office is in Cork and Ireland. And we were founded here in Ireland, and so we have continued to invest in Ireland over the years, especially in the tech sector. What we're particularly known for is running accelerator programs. We've had quite a lot of Irish companies go to our accelerators in the US and in China, and then come back and found amazing companies like Alien, for instance, which is an AI company based in Dublin that originally started in Iran, went to China, and then moved to Dublin. So we're quite an international firm, and we love Ireland.
Fantastic. Thank you, Bill. And today. It's a great pleasure to have you along. So next up, I'd like to introduce Mr. Sean O'Connor. Sean is the co-founder and COO of STATSports. Sean, over to you.
Thanks, Damien. Thanks for having me on, guys. STATSports was set up by myself and Alan Clark out of Liao originally, and we supply wearable technology to elite sports teams across the globe, from Manchester United, Liverpool, to NBA, NFL, and far-reaching places. So we provide hardware and software solutions that's all made here in the island of Ireland. And we've launched, as of last year, a consumer device, which is sold now to 90 plus countries around the world. So excited to be here and to enjoy today.
Thanks, Sean. Thanks for that. Next up, we'd like to introduce the CEO of Guaranteed Irish, Brid O'Connell. Hi, Brid.
Hi there. I didn't think I was reintroducing myself again, but anyway, thanks very much, everybody, for joining us. I'm delighted to see such a broad group, more importantly. But as you know, Guaranteed Irish is all about supporting jobs and communities, and jobs in the communities and keeping those jobs alive. We have a massive campaign out at the moment, Guaranteed Irish Gifts.ie, which I'll come to in a moment. But the idea is to keep those businesses and the circular economy moving. And if we all, I suppose, support Guaranteed Irish businesses, we're actually holding on to jobs and holding and improving our own economy and pushing the money around. So Guaranteed Irish has always been about jobs. So that's really why we're involved, and we're involved in many sectors, one of which is tech.
Thanks, Brid. So next up, I'd like to bring in Mr. Daryl Divilly. Daryl is the founder of the I Love Shopping Group. Daryl, could you tell us a little bit more about that?
Yeah, good morning, everyone. So I'm CEO and founder of the I Love Shopping Group. So the I Love Shopping Group is an Irish e-commerce company. We own and operate 8 e-commerce stores in the Irish market across a number of different sectors, including beauty, health, mother and baby. And I founded the business in 2009, and since then we've been growing significantly, and we're now a major player in the Irish e-commerce market in Ireland. Thank you.
Thanks, Daryl. Next up, I'd like to introduce the CEO of Career Decisions Ireland, Miriam Magner Flynn. Miriam.
Good morning, everybody. I founded Career Decisions 25 years ago. We specialize in the whole area of career transition and outplacement. So we help people who've lost their jobs find jobs as quickly as possible. So I started the business in a recession. We've survived 4 recessions and we're thriving. So looking forward to telling you the story, and hopefully there'll be something for all of you in my story. Thank you.
Thanks, Miriam. Thank you. And last but not least, CEO of Intact Software, Mr. Justin Lawless. Justin.
Thanks, Damien. Thrilled to be here this morning. My name is Justin Lawless. I'm CEO of Intact Software. We're an ERP and accounting software, business management software, on cloud, on-prem solution, and based here in sunny Dundalk. And our technology is now running businesses all across Ireland, the UK, into Europe, Australia, New Zealand. We have a team of about 160 people, and hoping to break the US market by the end of this month, I hope. So thrilled to be here this morning.
Fantastic. Thank you, Justin. Thank you. So before we move on to the Q&A session, I'd just like to set the landscape here, what we're seeing in the tech scene over the last 9 months. So we've witnessed an acceleration and innovation across almost every sector in Ireland. We've seen innovation pivoted from rapid developments and improvements in technology and adaptation of the new norms. These changes have fundamentally changed how we communicate together, how we share content with each other, how we interact with each other and interact with our clients, how we manage our supply chain, all companies have pretty much stood up and implemented their businesses. Initially, these changes felt temporary, but are now the foundation of a rapid digital revolution. From a personal perspective, we've seen this in Viatel and telecoms. Our own network, initially post-COVID, doubled in terms of network traffic that we're seeing from a residential and business perspective across the telecoms infrastructure. We then see that quadruple as demand increases. Demand for remote worker solutions, Microsoft Teams solutions, resilient connectivity services out to home workers, where broadband becomes essential, an essential working service for people like me or people like our team members that are remote all over the country. And then we've seen a final increase in demand for cloud-based solutions, for cloud-based technology located here in country in Ireland. So I'd like to open up the questions and kind of tease out some of the trends that we're seeing across our own businesses. Starting there with Justin, bringing in Justin from Intact Software. When you look at the kind of digital related revolution and digital projects that we're seeing, Justin, what changes have you seen in your organization and also from a client perspective in terms of digital related spend and digital related project time? What are you seeing there, Justin?
I guess apart from the obvious, getting remote and enabling people to run their businesses around the laptop, I think, first of all, our team responded remarkably well. We were going through a complete reorg of the company at the time, just starting in February. And of course, we had new team leaders running new teams and trying to get people organized and rallied around while COVID was hitting. So we were thrilled with the response of the team, but we were very, very lucky in the case, or in the sense that our customers tended to have been on the essential services list. So we have a lot of customers who wholesale and distribute building materials, medical devices, PPE equipment. So we were very fortunate that our customers were actually doing quite well out of the whole situation, but they really needed us. And I guess one of the things that we decided to do, and I guess this is one of the laws of software, is you do not give your product away for free, but we felt that our customers' success was actually going to be our success. So what we decided to do was call up all our customers and say, look, we understand that you're facing a significant challenge in your business. You can no longer have people out on the road, be they sales reps or engineers. So they brought them all back in-house, and we gave them free licenses, short-term licenses for them to use in their business in order to let them be a success. And I think one of the things that we realized, and certainly a lot of our customers realized, that it was less about the tech of enablement, but also primarily about the business information being delivered to their bedrooms in some cases. That the value that their people brought diminished when the right information wasn't being delivered to them at the right time. So that was a key driver for us, that ultimately our customers really needed us to provide their team with the right information to make the right buying decisions, the right selling decisions at the right time. And I'm thrilled that the team stood up to that task.
Thanks, Justin. Just a second, tease out question there, Justin, in terms of over the years, I've kind of seen that IT managers, IT directors have kind of struggled to get technology onto the C-level agenda, particularly in some, Indigenous companies here. We've seen that kind of trend. But do you think since COVID has come around that technology and digital related projects are getting more kudos or more airtime at the C-level table?
Well, as a previous IT person, I can tell you that there's always a theme around, when things were going okay, people would say at the C-level table, well, what the hell are we paying you for?
Yeah.
When things are going wrong, people saying, what the hell are we paying you for? So the poor IT person is never really going to win there. But no, for sure, I think IT has become more about the information and less about the fixing network related incidents or devices. So for sure, we're starting to see the rise of the CIO amongst, lots of our customers are in the SME space. And IT was for them more about fixing printers and things like that. But for sure now we're seeing the realization of the importance of information, and certainly the rise of the CIO amongst the SME world. So sorry, the CIO, Chief Information Officer, somebody who's providing the right information at the right time to the right people. So for sure, the value is more visible now, I think.
Yeah, thanks for that, Justin. I'd like to bring in Daryl from the I Love Shopping group. Daryl, and it's one thing we've seen firsthand, from a personal perspective, is that the buyer behavior has changed fundamentally over recent months. To use the analogy, our internet connections have almost replaced the motorways. Our digital channels and our e-commerce platforms have replaced our shopping malls and our retail parks. Huge rate of adoption to e-commerce and to buying online. What trends are you seeing from an I Love Shopping perspective in the market?
Yeah, well, during the first lockdown in particular, we saw significant increase in demand. And I suppose the interesting thing is that this demand stayed quite strong when restrictions were lifted. So sure. My feeling is there's been a kind of a fundamental shift in buying behavior. So for many people, I suppose, and we could see it with the customer reviews coming in for many people, it was their first purchase online, first time purchasing with us. And I suppose these people have become comfortable with shopping online. They've been impressed by the quality of service being delivered, the variety of products and the price. So I would say there's been a fundamental shift in terms of a lot of these shoppers will stay with us. And I recently saw some data coming out of the UK, some research where 18 million people stated that their online or their shopping behavior has permanently changed since the pandemic started. So I would expect probably a more dramatic shift in Ireland. So therefore, I suppose it's imperative that companies, Irish companies that want to perform successfully online now really need to pay attention to their online presence, because that's where their customers are going to be. And if they're not there and they don't have the presence, they're going to lose market share.
Yeah, thanks for that, Daryl. From an investment, and kind of open it up to a more macro picture here. Bill, I'd like to bring you in this from a, you're managing a 750 million venture capital fund, projects all over the world. From a market investment perspective, what changes are you seeing and what changes are you making from a potential investment evaluation perspective, since kind of the last 9 months?
Yeah, well, I don't think we're investing very heavily in travel right now. Mm-hmm. In fact, we do have a couple of travel companies that have pivoted to doing staycations and child entertainment at home. So I think you've got to look at the investment hypothesis from the perspective of this is probably the new normal. And so, businesses actually have to adapt and pivot. So those companies that have made, pivots or can adapt to this new normal are ones that are exciting. An Irish example is a company called Food Marble. They make a little device. It's called the Air. And what you do is you breathe through it for a few seconds and it tells you about your gut health. It actually measures the fermentation in your gut and tells you about your gut health. These sorts of things that you can improve your health at home are just taking off all over the place. So looking for things that people can do at home rather than having to go somewhere to get diagnosed, looking at things that support home working, those sorts of investments are doing really well. I think a couple of things that are intriguing are virtual reality. There's some massive strides in virtual reality. It's probably time. Zoom is great, but it's not as good as going into a VR conference if you actually have a VR headset. And some of the VR headsets are getting very cheap and they're very good. So there's a whole new area of investment there. Another thing to think about too is what constitutes a company. Previously we would have been very much against outsourcing because we feel that the tech team needs to be in-house for it to be able to iterate quickly. But in a world where nobody is in an office, while there are lots of disadvantages in remote working and lots of disadvantages in outsourcing, if that's the new normal, those disadvantages are far less than they were. And if you look at Ireland with all of our skills and all of our people and the general view of people around the world, that Ireland actually has a fantastic brand as a country. We're trusted, we're capable, we're seen as good-natured, good-humored, and accepting. All of the things that make us a great place to live are actually great brand elements for our workers to be able to work remotely. So one area that I see growth in is outsourcing companies of various kinds, changing what a business actually is. Whether that's a manufacturing business or whether that's a software business or whether that's a services business, there's no reason, if you're not in an office together, there's no reason why you can't perform just as well with a lot of different remote people. And you want those remote people to be reliable. So I see that there are huge opportunities for all people in Ireland to actually be offering services, offering product, offering themselves to the rest of the world, to work in other businesses around the world. And I think that it's an interesting proof that nationalism is deeply flawed, because this virus didn't respect national borders. You know, even countries that closed their borders, unless they were surrounded by, 2,000 miles of ocean, they really weren't able to keep the virus out. And so this is kind of a change to globalism, because we're all here. I could be anywhere on planet Earth participating in this. Happen to be an island, but I could be anywhere on Earth. That's a major change in the way in global thinking. So again, from an investment perspective, looking at things that can go global, looking at things that are infrastructure that support this new normal, those are all very, very exciting. The other thing, of course, we did was tell all of our portfolio companies to tighten their belts and batten down the hatches, because huge amounts of disruption always are going to make the money supply more difficult. Ourselves, we're okay. We raised just beforehand, but there are plenty of funds I know that are trying to raise money right now, and none of them are investing. We've actually had our 2 most active months of investment in our history. Well, actually 2 most active quarters. We were rated the most active investors in the world at seed stage across everything. We're the most active for 2 straight quarters. Now, yes, we've been pretty active and a little more active than usual, but what it really tells you is other people who were previously active are not. So definitely tighten the belts.
Just coming in there, Bill, in terms of your most recent projects that you've been active around, I presume you're looking at disruptive technology sectors that are kind of emerging for the future. What's your thoughts on that in terms of, what's exciting you guys now for the next 12, 24, 36 months?
Well, we're pretty excited about AI. We're very excited about hardware that people can use at home, like the food marble. We're very interested in cross-border internet and cross-border transactional stuff. The way our investment system works is people go and do one of our accelerators somewhere in the world. All of our accelerators have gone virtual, in areas where there's COVID. But interestingly, the majority of our accelerators are in China, and they're open to everyone. And guess what? They're not virtual. The virus is at low enough levels that people can attend in person. One of the things that I think is going to be very fascinating is the change in the view of people towards biotechnology. And we about a third of our fund is biotech and medical devices, maybe half now. And I think that's going to be a complete change. Things that you can't even really imagine are actually, couldn't really imagine a few years ago are happening now, and they're happening at a very, very much faster speed. Ireland has some great biotech and medical device companies, a great medical device startup ecosystem, and that area is absolutely booming. I was talking to a startup in Trinity yesterday. They've come up with a breathalyzer that can detect COVID, and it's all electronic. There's you don't have to send it off to a lab. You can literally just breathe into this thing like I just did with the air, and that will actually diagnose whether you either have flu or COVID. Wow. So these sorts of incredible advances in biotechnology are being fast-tracked all around the world, and they make excellent investment opportunities.
Fantastic, Bill. And thanks for sharing that with us, Bill. If we look at disruption and moving it along in terms of to Sean O'Connor and STATSports. So Sean, I know your business very well from its early days to what it is now. You guys have gone from strength to strength, riding on the crest of a wave. Pretty much everybody, we see the packs on the back of all the sports stars and the bids with your branding on it. But we've also seen some new entrants to the market in terms of challengers, and we all face that in our own relative industries. But you guys continue to innovate and position yourselves as the #1 in that marketplace. What percentage of your business is focused on R&D and innovation? How do you weight that sufficiently, Sean?
It's there's probably a constant of roughly about 25% of our business is focused on R&D. And there will be certain times of the year. So if we look back in the last 12 months, even just 3-4 months ago, we launched a whole new suite of software products. And in the build up to that, so we'd be dialing up in terms of our focus and being able to get that product to market, the whole new Sonra platform. So we would have a constant of 25%, but that can increase at various stages in times what we're doing. In sport, it's very seasonal, and we have certain times and targets throughout the year that we have to hit to bring out new products or new variations on what we have. So it is a core part of what we do, and it's probably regularly a lot more than 25%, because depending on who you ask, we're a sports company, or we're a data company, or we're a hardware company, or a software company. We're a combination of all those things, but at the core of it, the data, in order to be accurate to a level where you've got Premier League superstars who are worth tens of millions of pounds, and you're basing decisions on their availability every day on the technology, you have to be able to hang your hat on the data quality. And the only way to do that in technology is to keep ahead of the curve. So we have to make sure that a huge focus is on not waiting on somebody to come up with something that we can then piggyback on, but that we have to be seen to be able to push the boundaries. And we do engage quite a lot with our clients on that as well. I know some people are of the opinion you tell your clients what they want, but for us, the elite sports space is, albeit global across multiple sports, but when you're talking about, excuse me, the very, very top level, it is quite small, and it's quite a close network. So being able to bring them on our journey with us, that they feel like they're able to influence and have a say in how our product evolves and what happens next. So having panels of focus groups from NFL coaches, excuse me, to Premier League players, but also the coaches and the managers that are part of the decision-making process every day. So it's something that we're very, very mindful of, even to the point of we're lucky that during lockdown, the vast majority of our staff are able to work from home, and we're able to offer support service to our clients remotely, because what we're doing now has become acceptable, socially acceptable now. But from our development perspective, it didn't stop. In fact, it allowed us to clear a lot of things off our desk and focus on pushing out new products and new technology. And we even we added 10 new software developers just 2 weeks ago to our team. So we're constantly looking to push ahead and to strive. And the minute that we turn that dial down will be the risk of being passed out. So we have to keep that moving forward.
Thanks, Sean. I've seen that, challenges across all industries, COVID related. I'm sure you guys have seen similar challenges in terms of, sports stars were at home for a long time. It's probably got you guys thinking around innovation and how to innovate your own product. Have you any examples you can share with us of innovation that's been accelerated by COVID or, over the months?
There were probably 2 key things that happened, and a lot of these, because you don't see this coming from the outset. It's not something you're planning for a while out. But when the Premier League shut down, I suppose very similar to Miriam, we started our business back in the recession back in 2008, 2009, and even then, sport was in a bubble. Elite sport was in a bubble, didn't really get hit. If someone had told us 12 months ago the Premier League would be stopped, you wouldn't see that coming. But what we had to do then, on one part of, and we take my hat off to our data team and the guys involved, that we were able to take the data that we had with clubs. So we contacted some of our Premier League clients, and taking the data they had pre-COVID, actually just looking at it differently, analyzing that through a different lens, being able to fundamentally identify the risk of certain training sessions for these players. So we were able to take that, digest that, and provide that information to the Premier League, and that became the cornerstone of their negotiation with players and teams to get the Premier League back up and running, to phase in training sessions. So we were behind the scenes, a very kind of pivotal part in being able to move that forward. So that was obviously to our benefit, because that's our core business, but being a trusted partner in that respect, it showed the importance of the data quality. But we're able to then take that and, as I said, it sounds so simple, but look at it very differently. We're normally looking at distances and speeds, but then looking at player proximity and relationship to each other was one key aspect. And the second one then, I mentioned earlier, we've a consumer-facing product. So our core business is the B2B, working with the top Manchester United, Liverpools, and so on. But having launched the athlete series, so you can buy it online, and it's generally aimed at aspiring footballers and Gaelic players and so on, rugby players. So that product is app-based, and we have sold to over 90 countries around the world. And what you have then will be on any given day, you can look at the leaderboard and you can see the top 20 players who have the highest distance this week or this month and the top speed. And they can then compare themselves to a pro percentage. So how fast they are in relation to a centre forward in the Premier League or a midfielder in the Premier League. During lockdown, because the Premier League players themselves had to now train in isolation, we were able to supply them with our consumer product. So they're getting training schedules from their coaches who are giving it to players and then hoping to do it, and players are sending a message saying, yeah, we did that. But we were able to then supply our technology that the players could then wear and give the information back to the coach remotely. So the coach was able to get hands-on access to see what they're doing, even though they're not there. And the benefit of that for us then was that the kids around the world who are aspiring to see or trying to imagine what Marcus Rashford does, for example, all of a sudden in April time, you had the leaderboard was populated with Manchester United players, with Marcus Rashford, and you had Harry Maguire and Raheem Sterling at Man City and Liverpool players. And it wasn't just the kids, the 15-year-old kid in Brazil who's playing all of a sudden has been surpassed by actual Premier League players. So from our point of view, having that, there was a marketing benefit to that alone, but it was something that might never happen again. But that idea of we have this product that you're pitching us, here's what the pros do, and then the pros are then using it themselves at that level. It just, for a period when we'd written off the fact kids couldn't play soccer, and we dialed down our marketing and we were battening down the hatches, and we had some of the busiest months that we've ever had in that period because of the natural way in which it fell together.
Yeah. Thanks for that. Thanks, Sean. So in terms of Miriam, I'd like to bring yourself in from looking at your own business, which also has pivoted, and you guys continue to position yourselves as leaders in the delivery of career transition and coaching, particularly for employees that have been made redundant, which unfortunately we all know people in our own social networks and friends and family that have faced dire consequences because of COVID. So from a career decisions perspective, how has your business delivery model been impacted directly by COVID?
As I mentioned earlier, Damien, the model has been completely transformed, because before COVID, we were delivering in person. So I suppose in terms of what we deliver career transition coaching for people who've lost their job. So typically the larger companies would bring career decisions in to provide the career coaching to their employees and help them find jobs as quickly as possible. Mm-hmm. Before COVID, we would have had our coaches in our offices in Dublin and Limerick and Belfast and Cork, coaching either people on an individual basis or delivering to groups. But post-COVID, that moved online. So simple technologies like Zoom, Teams, Skype, we were able to use those, provide some training to our coaches, redesign our programs, and within a week, able to transfer everything over online. Without the technology, we'd have been like the hospitality sector, we'd have been closed. So not alone has it helped us survive, but it actually thrive. To give you an example, there's one very large project we were working on halfway through about in March, a big manufacturing plant. It was closing with 850 job losses. At that point in March, 500 of the 850 employees we had coached them and they'd secured new jobs. Since March, with the online, so we had a team of 20 coaches working on that project. Our coaches moved from the career center in the plant to working from their home offices. And of the 350 employees who were facing job loss, 318 of those have already secured new jobs. And that's through the coaching online. So, the typical things, producing high quality professional CVs that help people get shortlisted, providing interview coaching to help them stand out from the crowds and win the new job. So the results really tell the story. our delivery online compared to in person, the results on that project, 91% of those people have secured jobs since March. And those figures compare very favorably with the in-person delivery. So for career decisions, technology has helped us to move our business seamlessly. It has allowed us to continue trading. It has allowed us not alone to survive, but to thrive, because unfortunately, we are in a recession and there are lots of job announcements or job loss announcements. But we're in a position to provide a very good quality service and to help their employees find jobs quickly using the technologies.
Yeah, thanks. The phenomenal success rate there, Miriam, you know, and credit to yourself and the team there. In terms of what you're seeing there in kind of buyer behaviors over the last 9 months, what trends are you seeing there? What changes?
The main question we get asked is, how can you deliver? You can't do it in person, so how can you deliver? Can you deliver remotely to people right across the country and even right across the world? We've some projects in Canada, Australia, New Zealand, UK, a big project in Scotland, and most of that has been delivered from Ireland. We have some coaches in the UK as well. So buying behaviour is around the delivery model. And it was interesting, Bill mentioned earlier about VR. So that's something obviously we're looking at, and it'll help us to take another step forward. But simple technologies like Zoom, Teams and Skype have helped us to change our delivery model and continue to thrive in today's market.
Fantastic, fantastic. Just want to bring Brid in very quickly here from a more in-country look at retail. So we see huge changes in terms of how buyers are buying. The big juggernauts like Amazon and Alibaba are really capitalizing on market conditions. And they've made it so easy to do business with them. It's, you know, one click and you have the product in a couple of days. What can Irish retail do, Brid, to be kind of disruptive in that space and almost, you know, one step ahead of the one-click ready kind of competitors, the global competitors?
Well, I suppose the first thing we've noticed is a lot of Irish retail was completely offline. It didn't have an online presence at all. So the e-commerce facilities in Irish retail were very limited. That has changed overnight, literally. Mm-hmm. And I think Instagram and Facebook have been huge supporters, and Pinterest, to the guys who are really, really small, to the middle-sized guys and the larger guys. I mean, we look at Penneys, one of the biggest giants in the world in terms of retail, albeit fast fashion, an Irish company, effectively, but they're not offering an online experience, which is crazy when you look at the competition. So all the guys, if you like, have gone online who are serious about staying in the e-commerce or in the retail business. On the smaller guys, the crafts makers, the gift makers, the art producers, really personal pieces, quality, high-end pieces, which are very bespoke. And to tap into what Bill said earlier, there is a massive premium associated with being Irish. And I include in that food producers, craft beer producers, distillers. So a lot of those guys who didn't pivot off and start making hand sanitizers, who stayed at their main job, have actually managed to get themselves online pretty quickly. We have some great companies who got them online quickly, but a lot of the companies needed this push, which, you know, nobody wanted COVID, but it certainly pushed us down the road of being a lot more e-commerce friendly here. So that would be the first thing. The second thing we've noticed that the big competition for the likes of Amazon and Alibaba are, it has to be a really good user experience. So if the user experience is clunky, you know, you'll go on to another site, and the Irish retailer has to realize that, and the Irish provider is really important. And Daryl would be stronger on this than I would. But we produce guaranteed Irish gifts purely not because we are a tech e-commerce a company at all. It's not our comfort place at all, but we created a portal to get everybody to on one side so we could promote and market, which is our area, businesses to stay in business. And if we had one URL, we felt we could really push it, and let's get all the smallies in together and try and give them a voice. And we've got some bigger ones in now, which has been really interesting. We've got brilliant companies backing us who don't need us at all. They've just done the right thing and got in behind us, like eShop World and Magico and Black Knight. So they've been amazing. But what I would really say is the opportunity for the Irish brand is still out there, and we really need to put in a challenger to the likes of the Amazons. We're not alone in doing this. Every country across the globe right now is saying, let's buy local. So this is not just a guaranteed Irish phenomenon. It is for us here in Ireland, but across the world, it's every country is doing it for themselves, and they're really pulling the power of, I suppose, that whole patriotic and the circular economy back into vogue. So I think it's really important that we do that. And the third thing I would say is good. So the first thing to recap is having a good e-commerce, a good site, a good user experience. And the third thing is trust. And the one thing Guaranteed Irish, I think, does well is it really reassures people that this is a site you can trust if you're buying from. And any business, it's not just retail, but it's even in the tech sector, the professional services. We're getting more and more that the pharmaceutical, the construction, engineering, they're all joining because they realize that symbol of trust is really important, and people recognize and value it, and they know they've been put through the rigors of to some degree, and that gives them a trust and a seal of approval piece coming out of Ireland. And as Bill said, we need to trade up on the value of being Irish, and that has a value on the bottom line, and we need to make sure we're using it in the right way.
Right. I see Daryl there chomping at the bit to get in.
Can I just
and I love shopping perspective. Daryl, have you anything to add on to Brid's comments there?
Yeah, I would definitely. No, I would see, I suppose when I look at the Irish market and e-commerce, I'd see many Irish companies they're behind the curve when it comes to e-commerce versus, the UK or European counterparts. But interestingly and significantly, our customers are not. The customers' expectation is very high in terms of quality of service online. So I believe there's still a gap there, and that gap needs to be closed between, I suppose, what Irish companies are delivering online and versus the reality and the expectations of customers. So I'll give you an example. 4 years ago, we used to get 5-star reviews online if a customer received their product within 3 days. Now we're getting emails on a Sunday morning from a customer who ordered on Saturday night and wondering why they didn't receive their product. And customer expectations have skyrocketed, and probably driven by largely they're getting this level of service from international e-commerce companies and certain Irish companies. So we realize that, and in order to retain customers, we know we need to deliver on that service. We're now operating 7 days a week. We need to be packing orders, Saturday, Sunday. We need to be doing extra shifts, evening shifts, and with the view, as the orders come in, we need to get that order to the customer within 24 hours in order to win. That's going to increase. Next year, we're going to implement same-day delivery in major cities. And after that, we believe we'll have to go down the route of if in certain occasions, delivering within a few hours, or even potentially in the short term, drone delivery for certain products. And that's the expectation, and the customer is driving it. So I suppose there is a bit of a gap in terms of where Irish businesses need to get to reach the new heights of customer expectation when they purchase online. And that takes investment in infrastructure. It takes investment in staff and I suppose working at different hours, etc. But it's essential to win. I know you mentioned there about payment. Actually, that's quite an easy one to sort out. There is services there now with major payment providers. You can offer PayPal, Google Pay, Apple Pay, all the credit card payments quite simply.
Right.
So this is something, so you can do that quite simply. And obviously a lot of these payment providers now have the option and a feature that they can remember your credit card details, your login details. So the next time you come on to shop, you can be one click. So that's a thing I think any Irish online business can win very quickly there.
Thanks for that, Daryl.
Okay.
So very much it's the need for speed to differentiate our online delivery model here in Ireland against other international competitors that could take days or weeks to get product into country. So thanks for your input there. I'd like to open it up a bit wider, and just conscious of time also in terms of so much to cover here today. So to a panel discussion here where we the first topic we like to discuss, last week we seen the European Institute for Gender Equality release the 2020 Gender Equality Index. And on that, Ireland ranked 7th out of 29 measured member states. So 7th out of 29 member states. So I'd like to see us, from this perspective, focus on the tech sector and what we can do to disrupt that European norm and accelerate gender equality in our own industry. I think what they said was that, you know, it's another 60 years before we reach a position of equality. So kicking that off, I'd like to start perhaps with Bill to start us off and then open it up in terms of a wider discussion.
One of my core values is diversity. And I believe diversity is actually resilience. And I think that, you know, the first thing you've got to do is get businesses to realize the power of diversity in making them more resilient. I also think you've got to get them to realize, you know, how important diversity is going to be to their brand. Mm-hmm. You know, and you know, we're talking about Guaranteed Irish as, you know, this is a global branding opportunity. And the more we're seen as diverse, the more we're seen as safe, you know, the more we're seen as a stable democracy. These are great things to attract jobs to Ireland. You know, Coda Dojo is a great example. Very high female participation in Coda Dojo. Lots of young girls becoming coders. You know, they need to get hired. And you need to be able to celebrate that diversity in your business. I mean, I look at the opportunity across Ireland is always celebrate the stuff we have and enhance it. So like, for instance, you know, you've got the Guaranteed Irish Gifts. There should be a Guaranteed Irish Gifts web store on Amazon, because there are lots and lots of people around the world who would love that Irish brand. You know, TikTok is hosted in Singapore. It should be hosted in Ireland, where people would feel much more safe if TikTok had turned around and said, yeah, our biggest data center is in Ireland. Would have taken a lot of sting out of, and a lot of stigma away from them. You know, there's just lots that we can do with diversity, informing our brand and using it as a core pillar to bring more attention and more customers to Ireland.
Thanks, Bill. Miriam, from your perspective on the, you know, from a people and coaching and recruitment perspective, what are you seeing there in gender equality?
I think it goes back to the basics. I have children in second level school, and I think more could be done to promote women and girls in tech. I still think there's work to be done to promote the high value jobs, the high value, highly paid jobs with great work-life balance opportunities. I don't think this is promoted. I'm involved in another business called Right Careers for Me, which is an online system. It's a suite of psychometric assessments, and it helps students to scientifically identify the careers and courses they're suited to. Now, part of the feedback we get is that parents and students say, oh my God, I never realized that I'm suited to IT. They didn't, because they hadn't a role model, but they have the qualities in terms of the personality, the aptitudes, the skills. These qualities are there that they're not aware of. So that in it, Right Careers for Me is playing some part in promoting IT, but I think it goes back to parents and schools and the whole sector itself to promote it and to make it more attractive, and to build the awareness and to build the awareness of what great career prospects exist there for girls.
Yeah, interesting. I'd like to also just bring Sean in quickly on this. Sean, from your perspective, you're in a market, sports market, which can be, you know, dominated by, you know, we see footballers and the male side of life dominates that's industry. What are you guys proactively doing to, you know, from a gender balance perspective?
I think you have to get the message right, and that the broad statement, and I mean that in a couple of different ways. one, if you talk about football here in America, you talk about soccer, and it's predominantly there's a huge female cohort that plays soccer. So for us in that opportunity, we're launching a campaign that'll go live on like the likes of Sky Sports and stuff like that. They run up to Black Friday and Christmas, and that will feature some Premier League stars here. But in the US, that will feature a lot of the female superstars there as well, because that's what the market that we're in there. But even locally, people talk about tech, and it's a broad term, it's an umbrella term to work in tech. If we go through here, and I've seen firsthand walking people through a building, and this, I suppose, this assumption that like tech is all about IT or it's all about computers. It's not. There's people in here that play an important role. So you've obviously a heavy software team, but we've the second biggest team then will come maybe our finance team, and then we have our customer support team, operations, and look, we've got electronic engineers, and we've got male, female in all of those areas. That there's more to tech than just this perception that it's computers and it's that. Yes, there is that, and that's an integral part of it. But our finance team, who come from different space, will tell me that what they're doing and how they have to perform their roles within this business is very different to, say, the food industry or retail or some place they've come from before. So there is this education required, that tech isn't just a narrow focus of what's required. There's people in this business with huge different diverse backgrounds that play a crucial role in what is a tech company.
Excellent. Thanks, Sean. The second part of the open discussion I'd like to just quickly move on to is very much around the Guaranteed Irish tech sector, right? So this is relatively new, the focus on the tech sector from a Guaranteed Irish perspective. And I'd like to challenge our panel today to kind of think about and share with how you think we can do more in this space. We'd like to almost focus on building a tribe or an alumni of tech warriors out there that are pushing the cause for us, and harness the best of technology and tech companies in Ireland. What do you guys think we can do more there? And I guess we could start from Justin, from yourself, who's a member now of Guaranteed Irish. It's great to see you guys on board. What do you think we can do more to build that tech tribe?
Well, I actually don't. To be fair to a lot of Irish businesses, I've never gone to an Irish CEO or COO or anybody at a C-level position in a company and reached out to them for assistance. I've never been turned away. I think that's something that exists in Ireland. You can travel to Australia and you'll meet Irish companies over there. The diaspora is very important as well, that you can reach out, and I think that exists. But I for sure, I think there's an opportunity to encourage a more constructive and collaborative conversation around what's available to Irish companies. And I think Guaranteed Irish is well placed. I think as Sean alluded to there, that we tend to talk about tech as being this standalone thing. I mean, we think about even people who go to college, university these days, is that you're doing engineering or you're doing business studies, you're doing or computing, but fundamentally technology is now it's a horizontal going across all these industries. You take Sean's STATSports there, that they have engineers who build the devices, but they have technologists that make sure that the software runs well on it. So it's integral. But for sure, I think that there are many forums out there, but I think Guaranteed Irish is well placed and should encourage non-tech people to get involved in discussions with technologists, like some of the people around the table here.
Thanks, Justin. Bill, from your perspective, any thoughts to share with us around this how we can hyperscale Guaranteed Irish in the tech sector?
Well, I think there's a lot of things that Ireland can do to boost its tech sector. The absolute biggest one, and I can't believe that this isn't the headline of every newspaper in Ireland, is we're in a pandemic. We're all forced to work from home, and yet we still don't have national broadband coverage. Like, hello, I've become Irish. I have an Irish passport now, been here more than 10 years. Why can't we get national broadband? Like, what is the heck is wrong? Seriously. Come on. So everybody listening, tell everybody to tell their TDs to just pull the finger out, right?
Ironically, Bill, you froze slightly when you said that as well, which was just added to the effect.
Excellent.
So, Bill, just the options there. People can contact their TDs or contact Viatel, and we will sort.
Yeah, please put a fibre into my house. I'm in rural Ireland. I don't think you can help me, Damien.
Send us an air code, Bill. Send us an air code.
I will. The other thing is, we need to celebrate more the technology we have. There definitely needs to be, particularly the Guaranteed Irish could be doing this, more small celebrations of great Irish tech stories, and there are a lot. I mean, if you look at, like, we part own Silicon Republic, Anne and Daryl do an amazing job, but it's still, after all this time, it takes them a lot of effort to get interest from Irish companies in, showcasing themselves. So, there are a whole bunch of things that we can do just to as individual business owners, as employees, to try and showcase Irish tech on these bigger platforms. And, Silicon Republic has an international reach, but when was the last time you saw an Irish company on TechCrunch that wasn't Stripe? There's a bunch of things that we can do to promote and increase the awareness internationally of our Guaranteed Irish tech. And I think one thing that would be really useful is to also have a set of standards to adopt. Things like diversity, things like, data security. We're in Europe, we have EU data security. We should, be promoting the fact that we sign up to those things. By the way, for the other attendees, there are some specific questions for people in the Q&A. Like Miriam, there's a question for you, and Daryl, there's a question for you, and you can answer those while we're talking.
I can just come to them in a minute.
So from my perspective, Bill, and it's funny that we mentioned before that a lot of Zoom conferences end early. We're certainly not having that problem today. So, Brid, are you happy to move on to the Q&A session, or?
Yeah, if I can just round before I just go on to the Q&As, and there are quite a lot, which is brilliant, and we really welcome those. So you can either answer them individually, guys, the panelists, but I'll also just take them, so we'll run through them really fast. And thanks, Bill, you've been answering on our behalf. Just a quick thing in terms of the challenge, Damien, I would like to put to the panel the Guaranteed Irish hosting event. I really welcome what all the panelists have said, and I love the whole approach and what Bill is saying in terms of getting greater tech success stories out there. We've done that really successfully in a broad way with all our businesses, but what we're really trying to do is grow and shine that spotlight. And I said it at the very top of the session on the tech sector. So the more tech stories and the more tech members we have, the more we're able to shine that light and get a collective story of success coming out in the tech sector in Ireland. Look, as I've said on so many things before, we didn't lick it off the ground. We're great computer program writers, and the reason we are is it's in our genes. We're playwrights and we're poets for centuries, since the Book of Kells, in fact, back from the monks. So let's just try and really bring that on to the next generation and really talk about it and sell ourselves. There's no point in being shy about this. We're in a market where everybody's shouting how good they are, and we really need to get our voice noticed. Guaranteed Irish are absolutely delighted to champion that, but maybe if we come away, while I do the Q&A, Damien, if we come away with a challenge for the panel and for those attending today, we'd love to rise to that challenge. So maybe you'll have to think about putting that together. I'm going to run through the questions very quickly. How does the panel see Brexit affecting the tech sector? I see you've answered it, Bill, there, but does anybody else have an opinion on that?
I have a pretty strong opinion on it. It's one thing that I've been speaking about at certain webinars and certain conferences over the last 18 months or so. There's an awful lot of businesses, and we deal with a lot of businesses who are wholesaling and distributing goods across borders, particularly in the UK and Ireland and into Europe. And there's a lot of businesses, unfortunately, sleepwalking in towards Brexit. And regardless of whether there's a deal or no deal, companies are going to have to fill out customs declarations. The only way that's going to be avoided is if the UK stays within the customs union, which is very, very unlikely. But I mean, for technology companies, complexity, like paperwork, is just like it's like a tax on these businesses, and technology handles paperwork and bureaucracy very, very well. So I think there's a huge opportunity for technology companies when Brexit actually happens, and we start having to trace and track goods. I mean, the digitization of every single business transaction is going to happen. So right down to line level, what's in the pallet is going to have to be disclosed to HMRC or Ross or whoever it is that they're declaring movement of goods to. So I think there's a huge opportunity there for tech.
Okay, thanks for that. And of course, based in Dundalk, you're so well positioned to know everybody that's going here. Yeah, well, best to look with that, but there's definitely change ahead for everybody. So, as you say, technology has an opportunity there. Another question, where does the panel see opportunities in the custom software sector over the next 12 months? Any opinions? Bill has answered that. Any other opinions?
Yeah, I think there's huge opportunities, and similar to Bill's point as well, and what you were talking about, Brid, that there is a huge benefit to being Irish and having that. There's a security that comes with that, a comfort blanket that comes with that. We're seen as this neutral, agnostic country, and that's something that we ride that horse in the battle ourselves. If we're going to the US or we're going to the UK, being Irish has a huge clout that comes with that. So being an Irish software company, being able to build custom software, that comfort, and especially at this time that we're in, is definitely to me an opportunity. And when people are maybe cutting their cloth accordingly in-house, they might be bringing their teams, descaling some of the teams, decreasing the size, being able to then outsource and get custom software and get that from other places is definitely something I think that people will be looking at.
Thanks for that, Sean. Sean, a lot of interest in your business. It's not, I suppose, it's consumer facing. So STATSports is the company name, or STATSport, I should say, singular, as a company name. So people may be in contact with you there, Sean, but they certainly like the stories coming out of it. In terms of a very interesting question, does the panel think the tech sector will play a big part in food security, safeguarding the supply of food in the coming years? An interesting one. Bill, you've answered that. Do you want to jump in on it?
Yeah, sure. I mean, there is a lot of food counterfeiting rising around the world as supply chains have gotten longer and more complex, and tech is playing a huge role in that already, and there's just more and more. So for instance, we have a bacteria that is put into honey in one of our companies, and that bacteria has a very specific sequence in it. It's completely non-toxic and non-infectious, but it's detectable, and so you can tell literally what hive honey came from, or what hives honey came from in the supply chain, using that at the endpoints. And you see RFID codes, you see QR codes. You're just seeing all these opportunities to label stuff, and then there's also spectrographic analysis. Being able to tell the kind of soil a carrot was grown in, and then being able to map that globally, so you can tell, oh, this carrot was actually grown in this soil and it doesn't have any contaminants. Yeah, there's a lot going on there. It's a very big opportunity.
Great. I've definitely learned. That's new to me, so I'm delighted to hear that. Miriam, a nice question for you. We see recent jobs announcements and R&D innovation investment in pharma, but what about hospitality, retail and the tourism industry? What innovation can happen to move us forward amid COVID there?
Yeah, I've seen virtual reality used to great effect in Disney. So that might be an idea for the tourism industry to consider. In relation to the retail, we're seeing e-commerce creating lots of jobs in this space. And hospitality, I think, also can use the whole e-commerce to forward fill their bookings. So there's some thoughts on it.
Thank you for that, Miriam.
And Daryl, just add, in relation to the question about building the tech tribe, maybe it might be worth Guaranteed Irish considering a strategic alliance with Enterprise Ireland, because as you know, they have a lot of tech startups, and that you'd work hand in hand to promote the benefits of the Guaranteed Irish brand to them.
Well, thanks for that, actually, Miriam. And they have come on board, would you believe it, as a partner with us this year. So we're delighted about that and very excited. And we've already done a webinar with them. So they've been hugely helpful. And I think that's a partnership that will develop and grow and things. So well spotted, but we're on it, as they say, and altogether better when we are working together, as we say as well. Last question on the Q&As to Daryl, and I'm really interested in this one, Daryl, from the Irish retail point of view, especially coming up to Christmas, Black Friday. What has been the impact of COVID on your e-commerce platform?
As I mentioned earlier, we've had a significant increase in traffic and demand, and I suppose our key focus is maintaining a really good reputation and maintaining trust with our customers. So we've obviously had to ramp up things on ourselves. We've made a significant investment in people and IT to ensure that we're still achieving or meeting customers' expectations in terms of delivery and things like that. So it's had a significant impact, but our focus is growing in a stable kind of form way that we can continue to meet customers' expectations.
One of the things I just want to comment on that, Daryl, if I can, we've seen some trends coming into Guaranteed Irish queries. People are looking for equivalents to Amazon or Boohoo or Nastigel for the younger teenage generation. We don't have that coming out of Ireland. We'd love to see it. But there's also a trend then on the back of that into more sustainable fashion, so slow fashion. And for a lot of, there's a huge change after happening because people are linking, rightly so, COVID, the environment, minding our planet, the whole green agenda. So there's a whole connection there that really hasn't started to come into the public debate yet for some reason. And there's definitely a desire to support that type of fashion, shall we say, and other disposable incomes, if you like. So there's definitely opportunities for the e-commerce platform, I would say that.
Yeah, absolutely. We've seen that trend, and it probably started, accelerated probably about a year ago, that we started to have customers. We were putting bubble wrap, obviously, to protect certain products and we were getting more and more customers asking us not to remove the bubble wrap, but there's obviously a balance. You want to deliver the product to the customer in a safe, or that it's not broken or it's delivered correctly. So, but we took the decision. There's innovative options out there in terms of using paper that offers similar protection to bubble wrap. So we removed bubble wrap from the business. We've noticed trends in vegan across hair care, skin care, cruelty-free products. So we've actually added a lot of these type of products based on customer demand, and some of these products that we were already selling already had these credentials in terms of vegan-free, sulfate-free, paraben-free, all these trends, and I suppose what we did in our job was just to highlight that the products, we probably weren't highlighting them well enough that these products were vegan products. So we've created categories on the website and filters that the consumer can easily find the products that they're looking for, but it's a significant trend in terms of, and I suppose it's all going back to listening to the customer, understanding what the customer wants and meeting those expectations, and that's just part of it.
Okay, thanks, Daryl. We've seen it as well. So I think there's tons of opportunities in the coming weeks for Guaranteed Irish businesses or innovators out there. Damien, I'll hand back to you in relation to the challenge, if you've had some thoughts on that.
Yeah, so from my own perspective and being involved with the Guaranteed Irish movement as such for the last 12 months, I think we can harness more. I do think that we can build that alumni out and do more of these sort of events. I think in a post-COVID capacity, I think we can build up an ecosystem of tech followers and tech leaders that can almost bring more in terms of more reach to the organization, and think bigger. Bringing in Bill's point again, that he made previously around almost putting an extra G in there and thinking of Guaranteed Irish Global. So just thinking bigger than the island here. So there's certainly points there that we can extract. From my perspective, I'd like to personally, before I hand over to yourself, Brid, to wrap up, I'd like to thank each of the guys for their time today. It's been an honor for me to host the event, and the insight that the guys provided has been fantastic. So, thank you so much, and I sincerely mean that to each of you.
Thank you. You've been a great moderator.
Yes.
Sure. Been great.
Thanks, Damien, for that.
Thanks, guys.
And just on the back of that, for Damien, for me to thank him on our board of directors, he's really brought tech into the spectrum for Guaranteed Irish. As you know, we've repositioned in the last 4 years. So very driven, voluntary board of directors who really just work quietly behind the scenes to make things happen. We don't get everything right all the time, but we do strive. And the guys around the board have really put their heart and soul into making Guaranteed Irish a whole new phenomenon. It's about jobs, it's about businesses, it's about keeping business at home. And as Bill said, we're ready for global domination now. We're ready to bring Guaranteed Irish out to the world. So get behind us and let's bring this story further. And I think the one sector that can help us do that really well is technology. So I'm looking forward to all kinds of opportunities and working with you guys further, but also to all the people who have attended. We've had a huge attendance list this morning and we have ran over. Just very quickly, before I thank all of my speakers, well, I'm not going to thank you because we've already done that, but you've been amazing, and I really like to stay in touch and keep that going. I do want to remind anybody who's out there to join us on our next webinar, which is for the pharmaceutical sector, and that forum is on this Thursday at 10 a.m. and we're talking about delivering and funding of a health service, solutions and opportunities for a post-COVID environment. So some of those medical device opportunities definitely there, I think, not just for Ireland, but across the world. So again, many thanks to our sponsor, Davy. We could not manage without them. They've got behind us and helped us to go online very quickly to allow all our events continue to run during COVID. So they've been amazing as well. Again, many thanks to all the attendees, to Justin, Miriam, Sean and Bill, and of course Damien for moderating. I really appreciate your input, and that's it for us for the moment, and wishing everybody a guaranteed Irish Christmas. Looking forward to talking to you soon.
First one, Brid.
That's the first one, yeah.
Damien, my I code is in the chat.
Great.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Bye, everyone.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank
Bye.
you.
Thank you.
Bye bye.